Hey, I'm Ethan Warren.
And I'm Caitlin Dial.
And this is our project.
Yeah.
So, I've been in theater since 8th grade. I joined NRCA in the 8th grade, and I've done every show since then.
I've been going to NRCA for my entire life, and I've been doing theater since I was in 7th grade, and I've been enjoying it since I was in 7th grade.
We are both performers, actors, singers, dancing.
We've both been a part of the theater, both on stage and off stage, helping backstage.
We also run the social medias.
Yes.
We run the Instagram and the TikTok. We also take pictures during rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
Our intention behind making this documentary was to highlight some of the aspects that kind of get overshadowed when you're in theater. A lot of people just get to see the final result, but in actuality it takes a lot of time and effort, not only from the actors and performers, but the director, the stage crew, the tech crew as well.
We also really hope to portray how God works through the theater, how he works through the actors and our director, and just the show as a whole, both for the people a part of the show and for the people watching it.
Our fall show was Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
And our version of this show took place in the 40s, and we incorporated singing and dancing, something that's typically not a part of this show.
After the show was over, we interviewed a couple of the cast members of Much Ado About Nothing and asked them a couple of questions about their experience with the show.
And here it is.
I'm Olivia Lindak.
My name is Jordan Stott.
My name is Parker Chapin.
My name is Dominic Soho.
I'm Nathan Wilson.
I'm Bailey Baker.
My name is Myers Collins.
I'm Josh Brown.
I'm Emma Donovan.
And I am Morgan Tickle. And we are in Much Ado About Nothing.
What or who influenced you to join the theater?
I guess, I don't know, my parents were a big influence to urge me into doing acting, but I wish I could remember the tour guide for NRCA, who gave me my tour when I was moving here from my old school, but showed me the theater, and I just knew from the instant that I saw the doorway. So I was like, okay, this is legit. I want to be there.
I do theater because I think it's a blast. I have a lot of fun. I'm around a lot of fun people. Everyone's just really nice, and I really like, being on stage and being loud, being emotional. It's just a lot of fun.
I actually switched schools, and I was really looking to try the theater experience here because it had so much more opportunities than my old school did.
I also switched schools, but I wasn't planning on doing theater when I came to NRCA, but then I met everybody, and I was like, I like these people, and now I'm really happy.
Why did you want to be involved in this production?
I guess I thought it was interesting doing, music with a play, because I've just done it for so long. I was like, senior year, how to do the last shows you're ever going to do here. It was interesting because I was like, everyone was trying to figure out, like, what is he doing with this music? And it was actually fun, and it was a great opportunity.
I mean, it's our first Shakespeare, and that's really an awesome thing, like an awesome milestone to be a part of.
This is the first Shakespearean show NRCA has done, and I think it's a really good way to motivate people to really enjoy Shakespeare.
So it's my first fall show, and I had known that a lot of my friends who were seniors were doing it, so I wanted to be there for their last fall show.
It's like I'm missing a part of my life if I'm not doing theater. Like, I really need to do it, and this is the school's first Shakespeare. We're starting something new. It's really a season of adventure, and I don't want to miss out on that.
Who in the show is most like their character?
Morgan or Emma.
But I would say it's either down to Nathan or Bailey. Nathan, not because he's a bumbling sheriff, but because he's just a very big personality and very fun to be around. And then Bailey because he is just, again, a very large personality. Just kind of walks into a room like, oh my gosh, he's here.
Morgan Tickle.
Morgan Tickle.
She is the spitting image of Beatrice. She was perfect for that. Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bailey.
Yeah.
Bailey is Leonardo for no reason other than he's so funny.
Any funny stories from rehearsal or backstage?
Oh Lord. So, in the show, Emma passes out at her wedding, and we are like helping her on the floor. What do you do when you have 45 seconds to sit staring at her on the floor? Smack her a lot. And every single time I had to sit her up, I went, good morning.
Bailey, when we would walk off, he would do a Jennifer Coolidge accent, and it made me die laughing every single time. But Mr. Roberts was so frustrated because I couldn't stop laughing. It was bad.
My favorite out of all of them would it'd be the time that, in between the 2 Saturday shows, we all decided to get together and have a little makeshift Judge Judy, like, court session about, like, if water was wet.
We did.
Another really funny one was also when Ethan had to fill in for Parker Chapin.
Yeah.
He absolutely killed it, but he had this massive book with his iPad
Oh, yeah.
hidden. And there's this one scene where I have to dance with Parker's character, and Ethan had this massive book with his iPad, and it was so awkward. I had one hand on his shoulder, and the other was just down, and we were trying to communicate without, like, actually talking, but we had these massive masks on our face.
Oh, yeah.
And it was hilarious.
How have you seen Christ work in the Squire Theater?
I would say endurance, for sure. Just like when you feel like you're giving it all and nothing is coming from it, I really just see God saying, keep going, because there is a brighter outcome. And once you're on that stage after grueling rehearsals, like, you really see that outcome of the endurance. And if you hadn't kept with it, you wouldn't have seen the great outcome.
There's a moment that we do before every show, and it's called Circle Up, and we kind of huddle up and we pray together. We talk about how we can improve the show that night based off of the last night, and we just kind of prep as a group. And there's a strange quiet at the end of that Circle Up, and right at the end of the prayer before we break off and do our own warm-ups to get ready to go on stage. And in that small quiet moment is where I think Christ is the most, when we're all antsy but also very eager and worried and nervous and restless to get on the stage. I think that's where it is.
For me, I think it's the fact that these shows have been successful. Because I don't think they could be if God wasn't working in all of us, and I don't think everyone would be able to do as amazing a job as they could, and as they are, if Christ didn't want us to be.
So mine's more actually for the last show we did with Cinderella. I had gotten really, really sick with I have no clue what. And I was out for a show, but somehow I made a recovery in a day and was able to be back the day after. Tired, but back. And then this show, I mean, everybody was getting sick, but we still managed to make it through and to perform. So.
And the grand curtain call.
Oh, yeah.
My answer is basically just the same thing that everybody else said. It was with the whole sickness and whatever. We had the one dress rehearsal where the only dress rehearsal without an audience. For me personally, I couldn't speak 2 days before opening night. Somehow on opening night I was able to dance and do all the stuff I needed to do and not die.
For the musical, we spend from about November to early March rehearsing, and it's a lot more than just getting up on stage and saying lines. For Anastasia, we had several different types of rehearsals, such as table read. We had music rehearsals, we had several dance rehearsals, and we had a lot of time just figuring out how we wanted to block things on stage. Our musical director, Shelley, comes in and helps us with things such as harmonies and figuring out what to sing in general, because it is extraneous.
When it comes to dance, we have the dance instructor from school help us, Miss Rose. She helps choreograph and plan out the dances ahead of time, and she helps us learn them until they're good enough to get on stage.
And then Mr.Roberts is pretty much solely responsible for blocking, but he's also generous enough to let us have some input as to the way that we perform, and it's really important that we as the actors have a bit of a say or a bit of an idea as what we think the character would do or say, considering we're living these lives for 6 months. On top of just regular rehearsal, we also have weeks such as Sits Probe and Tech Week, both of which are crazy. Many people don't know what a Sits Probe is, but it is when the cast sits down with the orchestra and practices the songs from start to finish.
For the first time, because usually for the actors, the singers, we rehearse with rehearsal tracks for the first 3 months or so, maybe a little less, maybe a little more depending on the show. But the Sits Probe is the first time we actually get to interact with the orchestra and see what exactly that feels like and sounds like, so that the orchestra can know how fast the cast is singing and the cast can know how fast the orchestra is playing.
Tech Week. You thought Sits Probe was crazy. Tech Week is bonkers, especially for something such as Anastasia. It's a lot of sitting around and doing nothing.
And waiting.
It's the time when the tech crew and the set crew really get to practice their stuff, and the actors, although we're an important part, we sort of sit on the sidelines and let them figure out things that they need to figure out.
Tech Week is definitely about lighting and sets and all that stuff coming together, but it's also about putting that with the acting that we've been practicing for the past several months, because the actors can have a general idea of what they're doing on stage, and the set crew can have a general idea of what they're doing when the scene ends, but if there's no communication, then things can go really bad really quickly. So that time period, Tech Week, is used for communicating what will be happening both on stage and off stage so that no one gets hurt and everyone can stay as safe as possible.
It should also be emphasized that although the actors have been working together for the last few months, that tech crew and set crew are kind of just thrown into the mix. So it's a big grade of stress on their part to have to figure out not only what they're doing, but what we're doing as well. The fall show has about 4 shows that take place over the span of a week, and the spring musical has about 9 shows which takes place over 2 weeks. This also includes a community performance and 2 different matinees. Performance weeks can be some of the most grueling but most rewarding times of the show. It's when you're at school at extremely late hours, but you have a smile on your face because you're with the people that you love. You're not just doing it with strangers, you're doing it with your best friends, which is a really great feeling.
You get to finally show the world this thing that you've been working on for the past several months, and you get to really show all the effort that you've put into it and all the time, and it's really such a rewarding process, like Ethan was saying a moment ago. It's really encouraging to finally be able to get it out of your system and get the audience as excited as you have been for the past couple of months.
This is when, like, community definitely, like, you need that support from your friends. I remember weeks during past shows where I wasn't feeling the best, and if it wasn't for my friends and castmates, then I probably wouldn't have done the best that I could have done if it wasn't for them.
And the medicine shots.
And the medicine shots. So many cough drops.
Closing night is, for a lot of people, super emotional because if it's not only your last show on the stage at NRCA, it's at the very least your last show of this specific show, which can bring a lot of emotions. For some people, there's a lot of relief because they can finally get back to their normal life and they can stop staying at school until ungodly hours of the night. But it's also really sad because you realize that you won't be seeing these people that you spent the past several months with for a while, or at least not as frequently as you used to.
Most of the shows happen on school days, so we will leave classes at the end of the day, meet up in the auditorium, and have a little bit of a study hall, lunch, dinner session. Then right after that, it is to the races. Makeup, miking, hair,
putting on costumes.
Yes.
All of those things happening all at once, while everyone else is also getting ready with those things all at once. So it can be kind of chaotic, but at the same time, it's very comforting, almost, the chaos.
Also, like, it should be noted that a lot of it is done by students and not just castmates, but people such as tech crew are doing miking all the time. Then we also have volunteers to help with costumes and makeup. We also have fabulous cast members such as Morgan Tickle doing makeup. We had a lot of cast members really step up to the plate this year and offer to do things such as hair and makeup, and they set it up in such an organized way that things were just able to run so smoothly. That's also another thing. We always, after every year, we sort of learn like the do's and don'ts and what worked and what didn't work. And something I think we're definitely going to take away from this year was the student assistants really benefited in the end. And I hope it's something that the next generations really take away. Although we did not have a lot of time to record, we tried to get as much footage before one of the shows as we could, and that is what we would like to show you now. Hey, I'm Ethan, and here's a little behind the scenes of how we get ready for the show.
So basically, it is around 5 o'clock right now, and we are getting makeup done, we are getting mics put in, everybody's feeling the adrenaline, and just getting super excited to put on our show.
Everybody
Oh. I thought that was makeup, it was just hair.
Like way too much blush just so that he doesn't look like a ghost from stage. Because apparently he did the other day.
Got some hurtful comments.
He did. Close your eye.
So tell us the key to being a makeup artist for
That is
theater.
actually a very good question. Patience. He went silent. It actually is. I mean, because there's a lot of things going on. People are doing their own thing. People get stressed, so it's like a lot of, like, you know what I mean?
We hadn't originally planned on interviewing the cast for both shows due to the sake of time, but after seeing the performances done by these 6 actors in particular, we wanted to take some time and ask them about their experience with the show and just the program in general.
Hi, I'm Ella Laurel, and I played Anya and Anastasia.
I am Juliet and I played Count Lily. Hi, I'm Caitlin and I played the Dowager Empress.
I'm Josh Brown and I am playing Dimitri.
I'm Parker Chapin, and I played Gleb Vaganov.
I'm Bailey Baker, and I played Flawed.
If you've been a part of Squire Theater before, what has been your past experience?
For me, after every show, I've always been reminded of how important a community is. I've always been reminded of how wonderful it is to not only do what you love, but do it with people you love.
Anastasia is my 8th show with the theater, and I only have nice things to say about it. I think the best part about it, if you're a returning actor, each year you kind of just like, everybody around you gets better, you get better, and the theater just gets more mature and just improves each year. It's really fun to watch.
I've been a part of this theater program since I was in 7th grade, and it has been just a super loving and welcoming community where I can feel free to express myself and not fear being judged or being hated. What or who influenced you to join the theater?
I watched my first show when I was 6 years old, and I don't really know what happened, but I just said, wow, that looks like so much fun. I think I want to try that. And that's how it all started.
So I think who influenced me was probably my mom. So she knew that I didn't really like sports that much. Like, I just didn't really enjoy it. I would actually walk off the baseball field because I got so tired of playing games that I would, So my mom decided that the best option was to sign me up for theater. So I started in like 3rd grade, and I've done it ever since because it's just been fun, and I love the community and the people.
Mine was in 6th grade when all of my friends had joined the Music Man, and I was like the only one who wasn't in it, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I should try it sometime. I'll go see it for my friends. And I went to go watch the Music Man, and it was so good, and I was like, wow, that is something I would really like to try.
My sister, like Caitlin, also got me into theater. We started theater around the same time, but her just like doing everything so well and just being amazing and blossoming so fast. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be like that. I want to grow up. I want to do all the theater things so I can just like spend time with my sister. But then it turned out to be something I like genuinely love and something I am going to keep doing on my own even without her.
From what I know, y'all have done several productions and shows in the past, but what drew you to want to be a part of this show in particular?
So Anastasia is actually my childhood favorite movie of like all time. My mom will tell you, I made them watch it like probably like 5 nights a week or like just like 5 times a week. It was insane.
Part of it was just out of habit of just coming back to the theater because, I mean, where else would I go? But also, I felt like this show was a fun show. It was a singing heavy show, and I felt like there was a lot of opportunity.
Kind of like what Josh said, it's part of the routine when you are really into theater. New school year, 2 new shows, audition for the fall show, audition for the spring show, no matter what they are, get to see your friends, whatever. But outside of the habit of auditioning for the show, no matter what, I'd actually recently seen Anastasia at the DPAC, and I loved it. And this is when I was really getting into the theater world. And I was like, okay, that's an awesome show. I would love for NRCA to do something like that. We did, and I said, I love this show, watching it, so I want to be in it.
Who in the show is most like their character?
Parker Chapin. Because he's very intimidating and stern and overall just a very interesting guy to get to know.
Juliet was like, she was just Lily. She was quiet and reserved a lot of the time, but she could have like this wild side of her come out occasionally. So I feel like that was Juliet perfectly.
I think the first person that came to my mind was Bailey. Not that Bailey fits Vlad, but Vlad fits Bailey, because Bailey is simply one of the most amazing people I've ever met, and just to see him, just to work with him, his line deliverance is on point every single time for his character. He dances like no one I've ever seen. Like, he is just a powerhouse on stage, and because he is a powerhouse, he does an amazing job at whatever role he's in.
I think that Ella is most like Anya. One, because I'm going to be cliche, they were both on their journeys. Ella's starting high school. Anya's on her journey to find her family or whatnot. And also, Anya's just like really sweet, caring, but also like firm in all of her foundations. And Ella's just like very, don't cry right now. Ella's very like determined and very motivated, and she's also very encouraging and sweet.
Any funny stories from rehearsals or backstage?
Dress rehearsal, one of the scenes, Will Ward, who is an underclassman, enters stage, and it's a very dark scene. You can't see a lot. And he trips over a set piece, and he hits the deck very hard. And then I come out, and I'm like, how goes it, comrade? And he's on the ground, and, you know, show must go on. So that was funny.
Parker singing I Dreamed a Dream every single night in the worst possible voice. It was just so funny. I was so annoyed with it, like, at the time, but now I'm just like, oh, that was actually pretty funny.
Every night, me and a group of people did church clap before we went on. Every single night. Since Cinderella. Like, we did it, like, it was every single night, and we never missed.
How have you seen Christ work in the Squire Theater?
Especially like on show nights, we would go to the theater to like do circle up and stuff, and we would like kind of read through the scriptures. It was really reassuring to hear about it. And I noticed that like praying helped a lot. Like when you were like anxious going on stage, a lot of people would pray and it would really help it. And like you would feel like the ability to do something that you didn't think you were going to do, especially when you're like sick and then you have to go on and sing and you don't think you can, but then you go on and be able to do it.
So there's just saying that we have backstage. Rough rehearsal makes for a great opening show, and that is so true. And I think that, you know, you look around during show week and you look at the past of the show and you're like, how is it ever going to happen? Like, what's going on? Everything's going wrong. And then show week hits, and then everything suddenly works perfect. And I think that is really where, you know, God is watching over the show, and He obviously won't let us go out there and embarrass ourselves. So I think as much as the bad rehearsals or the depressing rehearsals leading up to the show can really bring down like the overall morale, going into show week, everything like a weight is lifted off your shoulders almost. It's really interesting.
Not one of our leads, or really anyone who sang or did anything, got sick to the point where they could not perform. And I know I've been in a cast and have witnessed shows where their cast was falling apart and they didn't have anyone to go on. No injuries, like no physically, like anything harmed us. And I cannot talk about this from the beginning, the chemistry with this cast. It truly is working with your best friends. In professional theater, you know, you're just cast with these people and you do one show and you move on. These people are my best friends. And getting to work with them and like working through it and having a relationship with them to take to the stage, that's God provided only, and that's what I really believe.
I wanted to second what Ella said about the health aspect, especially because just in our fall show of this same year, we had a lot of people that got sick, and for the most part, people were still able to come in, but we were not at like 100% functioning. There were a lot of people that were taking a lot of medicine so that they could be there to fulfill the role, and there were a couple people that weren't able to come in for a couple of shows. You got in a car accident. The fact that you got in a car accident, some might say, oh, that's the devil winning, but like you didn't get hurt severely at all. For our last interview, we decided to talk to Mr. Roberts, who is the director and head of the theater department at NRCA. And we asked him a couple of questions about these two shows that he put on this year and previous shows that he's done in the past, and his past experience in the theater.
My name is Zachary Roberts, and I have worked at NRCA for 5 years.
What's your experience with community theater or theater outside of your college or high school?
Well, I worked professionally in Chicago. I was assistant stage manager at Timeline Theater in Chicago, and then I was a casting director and artistic associate at Provision Theater in Chicago, and I also worked a summer at the Goodman Theater in Chicago in their casting department, which was really interesting and very eye-opening about the professional side of theater and that sort of thing. For a little while I was involved in the theater here in Raleigh. That while I was at Southeast, before I came to here, I was doing some directing. I directed 2 shows for them. And then just recently, I've kind of connected with a theater in Wake Forest, Firebox Theater, and we're in talks for me to maybe direct a show there as well. So a lot of different types of theater, and a lot of different organizations. From really, like the Goodman is a Tony Award-winning theater, down to Provision Theater, which was just young and up and coming when I was there. So a lot of different experiences that I bring to the table, for sure.
What is your favorite show that you've directed?
I think the show that I've been most challenged by was The Crucible. So I like challenges, and so that's probably my favorite play. And musical, it's hard to say because up until this year, I probably would have said something different, but I really enjoyed working on Anastasia, so it was a lot of fun. It kind of surprised me a little bit.
How do you try to incorporate Christ in the Squire Theater?
Well, I think by the type of shows that we select, how can we look at what those shows are trying to say and connect them with what our audiences need and what they want to hear. And I think honestly, it's about showing different parts of the story, whether it's creation or fall, redemption or consummation, and all these different elements. And sometimes a play will fit into one of those categories very neatly, not fit into the other ones. And so I try to find plays that will really propel our audience to think about what it is that we're presenting to them and not simply just sit back and enjoy it. Although we want them to enjoy it, we also want them to be engaged with the theater and what it's trying to say to them.
What has changed since you were part of the Squire Theater?
A lot of things. I mean, for one, we have a beautiful facility that we didn't have when I was coming up in Squire Theater. Probably more resources and more ability to stage things well, and I think it's just different because it's a whole different generation of young people, and so that's really exciting because I like young people. They keep me young and fresh and with it, so to speak. I think also the types of plays that we've done and the types of musicals have been expanded a little bit beyond what we've normally done, and I've tried to have a positive influence in that direction. So.
What piece of advice would you have to someone maybe wanting to join Squire Theater?
Audition. I mean, put yourself out there and really try, even if it's not a show that you're super excited about or something like that. Every opportunity to audition is really important, because if you want to be an actor, that's what you're going to be doing most of the time, is auditioning. So just audition and see what happens. Take a theater class if you're really interested in theater. There's several different classes you can take here or outside of in RCA. There's all kinds of avenues for getting experience and that sort of thing. So that's probably what I would say is just audition, put yourself out there and see what happens, and then get the training that you need, either here or at another theater or somewhere in the Raleigh area. There's lots of opportunities to do that, so yeah.
It has been an honor and a privilege to not only be a part of this show, but specifically for this year, to really take the time and reflect on all the hard work that we put in, not just this year, but the past few years in general.
It's been so wonderful to be a part of this program for as long as we have, and it's been so incredible seeing how God has worked through the actors and everyone involved in these shows to really shine God's light across our entire school and to anyone that we can reach.
Thank you so much for watching this documentary, and if you're thinking about joining theater,
Do it!
Do it! Because it's great. And
if you've been thinking about trying out for theater or being a part of backstage or being a part of tech crew or anything along those lines, we would just like to say, go for it. It is so much fun. It is such an incredible community. You make so many friends and make memories that last for so long. And if you do decide to do anything next year, tell them Caitlin and Ethan sent you.
This is Caitlin and Ethan signing out.
Bye!
Ocean Man.